taco nachos. Stupid delicious. Hey there! Welcome to another edition of the Vegan Boomer Babe. I am going to make one of my favorite things today. Well, I love tacos and I love nachos. So I'm going to make some killer vegan loaded tacos and nachos with Queso Blanco. So thanks for joining me today. As we all know, it's never too late to go vegan. So as a boomer, I am coming up on my 2nd year anniversary, my husband and I, of being vegan. So with football season, actually nachos are good any season. So I am going to start off today with our Queso Blanco. And I do have 1 cup of chopped yellow potatoes in this pot right now, diced up. And I want to talk about this recipe. This recipe is not mine. There is a great website, noracooks.com, and I made this Blanco queso a couple months ago. And here's the recipe that I used, and I have written on here, stupid delicious. So it is stupid delicious. So when I find a good recipe, I'm not going to try and do anything to it. So kudos to Nora Cooks. And what I have in here is 1 cup of diced peeled, it's a yellow potato. And I'm going to add to this 1 cup of raw whole cashews. Now these aren't the cashews that you buy in the little can with salt on them. These are raw whole cashews. Big difference. So you want to get these, I buy the big bag of them. You can use them for lots of different purposes. Cheese sauces is my favorite use for them, but make sure you get the right ones. So I am going to set this has to cook for about 10 minutes, and you are going to be like amazed at how this turns into the best queso ever. So I'm going to put this back on my stove back here, because what I want to do is I want to bring my frying pan up here, because I am going to I'm going to let that cook for about 10 minutes making the queso. I'm going to finish up the queso in my Vitamix. And the great thing about the Vitamix is that it actually heats. When you mix in there, it can heat it up. So right before the nachos come out of the oven, I'm going to mix up that queso and it'll be already warmed. So on my stove, I have my frying pan, and I'm going to start with the ground beef mixture. Of course, I'm not using ground beef because this is a vegan version. I'm going to use a package of Impossible beef. I'm going to just turn this down just a little bit. I hear it bubbling in the background. So I'm going to just add a little bit of olive oil. And I'm going to add to this 1 large chopped onion. So we have that going on here. And I'm going to let this cook for just a minute until it gets just a little bit translucent. I'm also going to add to this some garlic. And I do have my garlic right here. I'm going to add 2 cloves of minced garlic. There's 1. And there is the second one. I will say that I am starving, and this smells so good already. So I added the olive oil, onion, and garlic. And I'm going to let this cook for just a minute. Meanwhile, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare for, while we have a second, I'm going to prepare for after the nachos come out of the oven. So I love sour cream on my nachos, and I have some tofutti sour cream. So what I'm going to do is I have a pastry bag I buy. You can buy them anywhere. This is a Wilton. And I cut the tip off of there, and I'm going to put my star tip into the bag. And then the trick to filling a pastry bag is to roll it down, because otherwise you're going to make a big mess. So I'm going to stir my onions, just trying to make the most of time here, doing two things at once. Turn that down. Actually, I'm going to pause, and I'm going to add the ground beef. And I'm going to break this up. We'll come back to our pastry bag. I think that when food looks good, it tastes better. So that's why I always have those little pastry bags on hand. And the star tip, it's called a star tip. You can buy those at any craft store. Just go into the cake decorating section and you can buy the little bags. Or you could even, if you wanted to improvise, you could use a Ziploc bag and cut the end off the Ziploc bag, and it just kind of gives you some control with that sour cream when you're decorating. I'm going to wash my gooey hands. Okay. So, we have our onions. Let me turn this down just a little. We have our impossible beef. I'm also going to add to this 1 can of green chilies. I have a 4-ounce can of diced green chilies. I'm going to add that in here as well. We're just going to stir all this up. Starting to stick a little bit, that's okay. And there we go. I'll let this cook a little bit. But first, I'm going to add some taco seasoning. Now you could make your own taco seasoning mix, but I am using this prepackaged. I am doing a low sodium, and I'm going to sprinkle this on here. Quickly, I'm going to sprinkle this on here. Quickly. And I'm using about 3/4 of a package of the of that seasoning. All right. I'm going to turn this up a little bit, and I have a little bit left. I still have about 1/4 of this left. I don't want to add too much. I'm going to go back to my sour cream, because I want this all ready. When the nachos come out of the oven, I want to be able to top them very quickly so that they are still warm. So you can see that I'm just putting this into the bag. Push it down a little bit. Whoops, there we go. It's ready to come out. But you can see that now when I'm ready to put the sour cream on, it's going to be nice and festive. We'll call it festive. Okay, let's get back to our beef, impossible beef. And I'm going to just brown this up, and we'll sit tight until this is browned. Okay, this is looking good. I think now I'm going to add my refried beans. Just to heat these up a little bit. And I'm going to use about a half of a can and just mix this in. And I'm also going to add a little bit of water because I want that to just kind of blend a little bit. Sometimes the refried beans, when they come out of the can, they're a little stiff to work with. So adding that little bit of water is going to kind of give us a little bit of a gravy type feel. We certainly don't want this juicy because if you do that, we're going to have soggy nachos, and we really don't want soggy nachos. So I'm going to mix this beef and beans together. That is looking good. So I have my onions, I can smell the garlic, I can smell the spices. They smell great. Okay, I'm going to just let this cook for a little bit longer. But meanwhile, I'm going to check my potatoes because I just want to make sure that the potatoes are done. And remember, I have in here the potatoes and the cashews. So this recipe, as I mentioned, the queso is by Nora Cooks, but the taco nachos are mine. So, but thank you, Nora. I'm going to just empty the potatoes and cashews, and I'm going to dump them into my Vitamix. You know, I love my Vitamix. I did not have, I just got one not that long ago, and it is a great piece of equipment. So you can make soups and smoothies and all kinds of stuff in it. Okay, this is looking good. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to just set this right over here, and I'm going to bring, there we go. I am now going to build my tacos, nachos, taco nachos. And I have a foil-lined tray here. So it's a good idea to line the tray with foil because all of the cheesiness and all of the goo is really going to be difficult to clean. So to make it easier, let me get a spoon. To make it easier, I think that it's much better to use foil. Oops. Okay. I have the spoon that melted in the dishwasher. Okay. I think it's time to throw this one away, but so I'm going to just spread this mixture on top. And this is the bean and beef mixture. And I'm going to do half of it. I have half of the chips here, and I have half of the beef. And I'm going to use my little spatula and just kind of spread it around just a little bit because, you know, there's nothing worse when you're eating nachos and you get the empty chip. So I'm going to make sure that we have these covered, or pretty much. That's looking good. Okay. And next, I am going to add on top of that cheeses. Now, I have two kinds of cheeses here. You all know that my very favorite cheese of all is Miyoko's pepper jack, and I also love Miyoko's farmhouse cheddar. So I have the pepper jack, which I'm going to sprinkle over top here. And I have the cheddar, which I will also sprinkle on top. These cheeses, to me, you know, a lot of people, when they say, I could never go vegan, I love cheese. And I was one of those people. And these cheeses, I'm telling you, my favorite is the pepper jack. Okay, so I have half of the cheese. I'm also going to put on here some pickled jalapeños because we like a little bit of spice. So we're going to just sprinkle a couple here. And some black beans. I have 1 can of rinsed black beans, drained and rinsed. And I'm not going to, I'm probably only going to use half a can because I do have the refried beans in here. Now notice that we have a lot of toppings that we're going to add to these nachos, but we don't want them to be soggy. So the soggy things you add after they come out of the oven. So I'm going to add a couple more chips. I'm going to do the second layer. So we did the cheddar. Okay, good. Trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I'm going to go second layer. You don't, I mean, if you're just doing these for 2, which we are, I probably didn't have to do the second layer, but you know what? We'll probably end up eating all of these. Who am I kidding? So, all right. And now we're going to add the rest of our beef. Get rid of this one with my funky spoon. This one really melted good in the dishwasher. All right. And I'm going to repeat the process now. So I'm going to put some cheese. That looks good. Oops, here's a little bit more in the pan. Okay. So we're going to just sprinkle this around. I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees. And these are going to bake for about maybe 10, 15 minutes. The way you'll know that they are done is when you see the cheese melted. So I have more of my cheese. I'm going to do my pepper jack. Don't forget we're doing queso when it comes out of the oven too. So these are going to be like super decadent. And when I mentioned that it's going to be taco-like, I'm going to add some lettuce and tomato, all the things that you would use for tacos too. So it's going to be ridiculous. Stupid delicious. All right. So we have everything on here that needs to go on. So I am going to put this in the oven at 400 degrees for about 10 minutes. We're going to just pop it in. And next, I'm going to set a timer. I'll do it for 10 minutes so I can check it. And then, didn't put jalapenos on there or the black beans. I will add them quickly. Luckily, I thought of this before. A couple of jalapenos and some black beans. Tragedy averted. Okay. In the oven. I don't think you'd miss them. I have so many other things going on top of these because these are like just super loaded, but okay. So we're going to finish up our queso and then we will wait for everything to come out of the oven. So for my queso, I have our cashews and I have our potatoes. I'm going to add 8 ounces of green chilies, chopped green chilies. And I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of pickled jalapeños, and 2 tablespoons of the pickled jalapeno juice. And remember, this is going to be amazing. And then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. And if you don't have one of these, this is like the best thing ever. What you do is you think that you're going to put the lemon in like that, but you don't. You put the lemon in this way, and it will squeeze more juice out of these lemons and limes. I'm going to say, I mean, there is like nothing left in this lemon after we do that. See, it's just, I think that was about 2 tablespoons, so I'm going to call it a day. And a cup of water and a teaspoon of salt. I already added the teaspoon of salt to this water, so I'm just going to dump that in. Now, aren't you amazed that this is going to be fabulous queso? Because the first time I made this, I thought, there's no way this is going to be fabulous, and it is. So I'm going to put this on my Vitamix blender, and I'm going to be back with you as soon as those nachos are ready to come out of the oven. Okay. You know, I love the Vitamix, but it's very noisy. But if I feel this, it is hot. And the queso is fabulous. And there's my timer. They actually, they look done and it's only 10 minutes. So I'm going to pull these out. And they look delicious. And the first thing I'm going to do, you can see the steam coming out of the Vitamix. So this is our queso, and it looks delicious, it smells delicious, and again, it is hard to believe what the ingredients are because it's so good. So I'm going to just get a little bit of queso and drizzle it over. I don't want to put too much on. I have plenty of queso for another day, but just delish. Okay. I think that looks yeah. Can't have too much cheese, can we? All right, that looks good. Next, I'm going to add some shredded lettuce. I'm not going to add too much shredded lettuce. I think that might be overpowering. I'm going to just sprinkle this on because remember, we're trying to do like a taco effect here. A big piece of lettuce. I bought the lettuce pre-shredded, but if you want to do your own lettuce, you can certainly do that. Okay, next I'm going to add some diced tomatoes and some diced avocado. Looking good. I have left over. I always like to cut up extra so that I could put on as much as we like. And I can always throw this on a salad another day, maybe tomorrow. I'll need a salad tomorrow after this. All right. And the avocado looks fabulous. You could do guac if you'd like. I contemplated doing guac. You really can do whatever you want with these. I mean, if you wanted to, you know, I don't know what else you'd put on, but whatever. You could put anything on. Okay, we have the same things that we would put on a taco are in this. So our next topping is going to be chopped scallions. And I have some chopped cilantro, my food chopper. So I think I'll add the scallions first. As many as you'd like. You could do red onions if you'd rather. Red onions don't like me. I love them, they don't like me. I usually taste red onions for a day and a half after I eat them. So scallions, it'll be scallions today. Some black olives. Look at this pile. If you want to wow your guests for the Super Bowl Sunday that's coming up. And last but certainly not least is our sour cream. So I put it in our pastry bag. I'm going to twist the pastry bag. That's the proper way to hold the pastry bag. And I'm going to put it here, here. You could design. It looks much nicer than just blobs. So let's see, I have a little bit more in here. Okay, voila. There we have it, our vegan killer taco nachos with Queso Blanco. So, absolutely delicious. I am dying to dig into these. I would like to thank you for joining me today in my kitchen. These look so good. I just can't wait to have them. So, thanks again. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.